The Conservative Party chairman yesterday condemned woke ideology by claiming it was emboldening enemies of the West. In a speech in Washington, D.C., Oliver Dowden said the social justice warriors' damaging self-criticism had infiltrated our schools and was sapping our nation's confidence.
Pernicious new ideology is sweeping our society. They claim to be woke, awakened to the so-called truths of our societies. They are engaged in a form of Maoism, determined to expunge large parts of our past in its entirety. A West confident in its values would not be obsessing over pronouns or indeed seeking to decolonize mathematics.
Well, clearly, Dowden was right that we should worry because it's emerged that a National Education Union-funded training session actively encouraged teachers to move towards a gender-free language. According to the session's uber-woke advice, Mr. and Mrs. should be ditched in favour of teacher, boys and girls should be replaced by pupils, head boy becomes head pupil, and mother is replaced by parent. The training also suggested that the categories of male and female be removed from school application forms and the box for gender should be left open. Darren Grimes, what are we doing in our schools?
I know. I must say, Dan, I agreed with Nadeem Zahawi earlier this week. He was in The Sun arguing that this kind of activist teaching has to be removed from our schools because ultimately, and I know you agree with this, kids should be able to make their own minds up on politics, Dan, and social issues in their own good time, right? It shouldn't be sort of spoon-fed to them in an attempt to fundamentally alter our society and the way in which we live our lives. And that's what I fear is going on here, ultimately. And I've got some gripes with the Conservative Party, but on this, they are absolutely spot on, I must say.
Darren, what I have an issue with is that we're changing language and we're trying to infiltrate this change in language from a very young age with our children for a tiny minority of the population. And by the way, if folk are non-binary, then fine, but I don't know why that should mean that we have to literally roll back hundreds of years of language that has developed around males and females. Of course there should be a head boy and a head girl. It's just nuts.
Exactly. It really, really is. And I mean, the whole point of school, I recently heard one anecdote from a school up here in the Northeast in which during one of these training seminar things, it was suggested that teachers shouldn't drink things like coffee in classrooms because the children can't drink coffee in classrooms. And you just sort of start to think, well, hang on a minute. When did we lose all semblance of sanity in these areas? The idea of authority and discipline seems to have been stripped out of the curriculum, and children are no longer in schools to actually learn and be part of a lesson that's all about accepting authority and not being able to get everything you want in life. Because, Dan, I don't know about you, but I think saying to kids, suck it up, buttercup, life ain't easy, is a pretty important lesson. And all of these things, the training around male and female being removed from school application forms. Dan, you ask yourself, what are all boys' schools and all girls' schools supposed to do? And then at parents' evenings, being precluded from using the terms mother and father, how are you supposed to address them? And then don't even get me started, actually, by the way, on French lessons, because as you know, French is gendered language in extreme. It's a language rife with gendered terms. So
we're destroying our language.
Are they supposed to navigate a lesson like that?
We're destroying our language. I feel so sorry for teachers who walk into the classroom. What's the most natural thing to say? Come on over here, boys and girls. Today we're talking about this. Yeah. In their head, they're just going to be thinking, oh, my God, I've made some huge mistake. No, you haven't. You've got a classroom of boys and girls. It's completely natural to refer to them as that. The other thing that really worried me about this, Darren, is they're saying that on school enrolment forms, you should no longer provide little boxes that say boy, girl, other. You should now just say gender. Now, that means if you follow ridiculous organisations like the University of Bristol, that young people will be able to say that they're a cat Apparently that's official now. You can identify as a cat. You know, this is just ridiculous, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's cartoon. It is utterly cartoon. I mean, fundamentally, Dan, this is the mission creep of those who want whackery and wokery to stand in place of discipline and learning, right? This is the mission creep of those who want our kids to be thinking about sex and gender at a frankly, I think, despicable age to learn about such things. And this is the mission creep of those who are doing what they can to eradicate, as you said very eloquently just before, gendered language in pursuit of tearing up what has been accepted as societal roles and definitions for longer than any one of us has been on this planet. These arrogant narcissists who've come across and said, actually, I want to tear all of this up. I want to tell your children that this is the way in which they should approach these things now. And I think it has to be resisted at every given opportunity. But Dan, I will say this. The Tories have been in power now for over 10 years, and this culture is slowly but surely ebbing away at frankly, some really important things. And education must be one of the most important things
come on,
in our country.
Come on, Oliver Dowden, come on, Nadeem Zahawi. Practice what you preach and stamp this out before it's too late.